All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Boston Office 365 user group. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
As you guys can see, we are easily reached on all of the regular social medias. Well, I don't know what you would consider a regular social media anymore, but we're on enough of them. More than enough of them, I'll say that. So these are our organizers. We have Dmitry Arepatov, myself, Mike Dixon, and Mr. Bill Gunning. Feel free to reach out to any of us if you guys have any questions or are looking for any information, especially about anything presented in any of our sessions. And you can't find it on any of these social medias that were listed on the previous screen. Last month, we had our beginner's guide to creating custom connectors for Power Apps and Power Automates, and that was presented by Eric Schupps. Very interesting topic. A little bit more code heavy than our normal topic, a little bit outside of our regular wheelhouse, but it was fascinating and I think went really well. So, updates. Since last month, Microsoft releases in general around 200 updates per month. We go through and curate some of those and pick out some of what we consider some of the top ones that we think you guys will find interesting or are most likely to have an impact on what you're doing. At least that's our goal. But, you know, sometimes we miss something, so let us know. All right. Our first one is what I was actually looking for at the beginning. The site designs are going to change. They are going to be renamed to customer site templates. So there's a couple of things going on all at the same time here. So I put together a lot of information on this slide so that we can really kind of dig into this one. The first thing is that they're changing the name of this. So what used to be called site designs is going to be called customer site templates. The other thing that they're doing is they're actually bringing in all of the site templates that were available in the SharePoint lookbook are now going to be accessible directly in the SharePoint interface. So from that interface, you're going to have something that's very much like the App Store in Teams, in that there's going to be a whole bunch of default templates available that Microsoft created, and then there's going to be a new section from your organization. Any of your previously published site designs will be available in the from your organization section of that. And likewise, to support that, they've also added a new PowerShell command to enable you the ability to assign a thumbnail to those site designs. And that thumbnail is the thumbnail that will represent that design inside that.
Nice.
Okay. Things that are going to remain unchanged and just going to stay the same. All of the PowerShell commands. I apologize for my shorthand there. I thought I cleaned up all my shorthand. I missed one. The ability to set a default template is still going to be there. And the ability to assign a design or to apply a design when a site joins a new hub is still going to be there. There are lots of reference materials here that Microsoft has done about this, including support docs, a blog post, and also a podcast episode. Anybody have any questions about this one? If you guys use site designs, this is kind of a big deal. If you haven't used site designs in the past, you're probably way more likely to start using them now because all of that lookbook stuff will be made way more readily available. So I think there's some good stuff going on here, but important to be aware of. All right, moving on. Team stuff. So there were lots of announcements in Teams, so I did a roll-up page as we've done in the past. The webinars and meeting registration system should now be rolled out to most of the general availability. So we talked about this coming last month. It should now be in your tenants and be available. The main difference between a webinar and the live meeting is you get the ability to have a registration page and actually have people log in for tickets for registration of your upcoming live session.
It's still a little problematic. I had issues where from a government community tenant, we couldn't register. So we actually had to have our users do it in private browser session to use the link to register for a meeting that was being coordinated outside. So you can still run into some issues.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Has anybody outside of a GCC tenant tried this? Nobody?
So we were working with Microsoft. They were conducting a bunch of trainings, and they gave us the meeting link for people to register. It just didn't work for us if people were already logged into our tenant.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it was people logged into GCC couldn't log into a meeting that was hosted outside of GCC?
Yep.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's just now being rolled out. I, wouldn't expect it to be anywhere near perfect right now. So, but I think it's a great idea, and I look forward to some of the future updates where we'll be able to trigger events to happen to do follow-ups with meeting attendees and stuff like that. I think that's going to be a real game changer in the whole, kind of CRM aspect of M365. So I look forward to that stuff getting much more mature. In addition to that, we have breakout room updates. So Microsoft Teams has breakout rooms. That's been out for several months now, but we're now getting a little bit of a maturing of that feature with the ability to set timers on those rooms. So you can say, okay, everybody go into these rooms, and then after 10 minutes, the room will automatically expire, and then all attendees are brought back into the main meeting. That timer is also visible within the breakout room itself. And there was also a lot of stuff about reassignment of rooms. I'll be honest with you guys, I haven't used the breakout rooms a heck of a lot other than just kind of playing with them and testing them. So I'm not real sure what this reassignment thing is, but it sounded like it was solving something that was complained about a lot. So I guess that's good. Another really cool thing that's coming out is the ability to create tasks from chats and channels. This is a wonderful feature. I'm happy to see that Microsoft doesn't require us to use Asana to get this feature, because Asana figured this out a long time ago. But now you can use the Microsoft channels and Teams to take a chat that somebody sends to you and just turn it into an immediate task. Those tasks are automatically then assigned to the to-dos. And the ability to allow anonymous presenters in live events is now also rolling out. A couple of things that are unique to this: they'll be able to join after the start, and but it will require the desktop app. So this is not available from the web client for Teams, but at least we can do live events with non-tenant members. Present to Teams from PowerPoint. There's now a button right in PowerPoint that says Present to Teams. That is officially rolling out as of now. I can say that it rolled out to my tenant, and I actually tried it earlier today, and it actually crashed. So, but it's there. So, maybe in the future it'll be there and work. That'd be cool. And there's also going to be new producer view for live events. And that will include the ability to pop out the live event. So the producer will finally be able to see his queuing screen in a separate window from the actual event itself, which is going to be incredibly helpful. All right. And then SharePoint stuff. SharePoint is getting Power BI reports natively to the integration menu. If you'll recall, a few months ago, we mentioned that the manage flows, or I forget what it used to be called already, but all of your Power App and Flow, the Power App and Flow buttons were consolidated under a dropdown called Integrate. That same dropdown is now getting a Power BI option in it. Any Power BIs that are created from a list or library using this will be viewable to anyone who has a Power BI free license, but will require either E5 or a Power BI Pro license in order to create, edit, or publish the dashboard itself. And just a quick note, I really wanted to call out that it's viewable for free if you have the free license. That doesn't mean that you get it by default. You actually have to go and actually deploy that free license. It doesn't cost you anything, but you do need to deploy that license to everybody and turn it on for them if you haven't done so already.
Does that license expire?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
But it would only be from a SharePoint list. Because I use the premium capacitor, so we publish reports. But you're talking mainly about SharePoint lists driven by Power BI.
Well, I wouldn't even say necessarily driven by Power BI.
Yeah, but consumed, yeah.
But the ability to have, consumed, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah. So really, I mean, there's not a lot of functionality that's different here from the Power BI side. I think the only thing that's different is the ease of access to getting to the Power BI that's related to a particular list, right from that list.
Yes.
I think that's really going to be the new component, unless there's something else that they're doing here that I missed out on. But also SharePoint News Digest is getting a couple of updates. So this is, I don't know if you guys are aware, but you can have it set up so that people receive a newsletter via email that is basically an aggregate of all of the news posts that have happened within your organization or within that defined area over a certain period of time. That's getting some updates like org branding, so you can have your own custom logo and theme colors on it. It'll be automatically ranked by relevance based on who it's going to. But then they also created a boost capability that you can flag a news post worth that will push it up to the top to kind of override this, give you the ability to override that ranking if so desired. All right. And this last one is actually a follow-up on something we talked about last week, but we're running a little behind. So I'm going to skip over that, or last month rather, and get to our last slide, which is Visio for everyone. I think this is actually probably the biggest news that I've heard in the past month. Microsoft Visio is going to be included without any additional licensing to any licenses that include any of the Office applications. Okay, so this includes even if you only have the online client, then you will get the online version of Visio. And if you have a license that includes the desktop apps, then Visio will be included in those desktop apps.
I'm looking forward to this one because I can hopefully embed Visio in my intranet pages and edit them in place, and just this is very exciting.
I'm with you. I'm very excited about this. I'm a longtime Visio user, and I think the separate licensing has been a real showstopper for a lot of the wonderfulness that Visio is capable of. And we actually have a Visio MVP that is a member of our group. Is he with us? We should reach out to him and see what he has to say about it. I'm sure he's ecstatic.
Yeah, I don't see Scott Helmers on the call today.
Scott Helmers, that's who it was. Thank you. But yeah, in addition to that, so just to be clear, there are still going to be a Visio Plan 1 and Visio Plan 2. I was not able to find, and I did specifically look for kind of a comparison chart to see what was going to be available in the new base version, I guess the Plan 0 version versus Plan 1 and Plan 2. We don't know what that is yet, but I'm sure that will be coming soon. All right. So that's it for updates. Are there any other major updates that have happened in the past month that we missed out on? Anybody? All right. Well, with that, we wanted to give a big thanks to our platinum sponsor, Turn Digital. Thank you very much. Turn Digital has been a sponsor with us for multiple years now, and they help us pay the bills and keep the virtual lights on, as it were, lately, and keep all these invitations up and running and all that fun stuff. So thank you very much to Turn Digital. And with that, I am going to hand it over to Mr. Mike for his session on adaptive cards for citizen developers. He's going
Thank you, Mike.
All of the glory that is adaptive cards.
Absolutely.
And there is much glory to be had, sir. I love adaptive cards. Tell the rest of the world.
I love adaptive cards as well. It's pretty cool. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today. I heard earlier that the previous session was a little bit more technical. We're not going to go into technical much this time. We're going to look at code. We're going to copy and paste code. And we're not gonna do anything. We're not gonna code at all. But we're gonna build an adaptive card without actually touching the code itself. So let's get started. Quick intro about myself. My name is Mike Marani from Ottawa, Ontario. Been to Boston many times pre-COVID for the previous SPS events. Been an MVP for a few years right now, since 2015. I started as a SharePoint person back in 2001 and slowly moved into the cloud. I do quite a bit of SharePoint still and Teams and OneDrive. My contact info on the screen. If you want to reach out to me at any point, I will be very happy to help you out or answer any question. I do have a podcast, m365voice.com, with a couple of other MVPs that we publish weekly episodes. Just we pick questions from the audience. They send us a question and we pick a question and we answer any topic about M365 in general. So what are we talking about? First of all, we're going to look at cards comparison, what it means, what does it mean to have a card, and we're going to go deep into the adaptive cards. Most of the actual session today is demos. We're not going to spend a lot of time in the PowerPoint, just go into the demos and start building on the fly. So we know exactly how things go. Feel free to interrupt me anytime. I will be very happy to make it more interactive and answer any question as well. So what is a card in general? For a card, whatever that card is, it does not have to go into teams. We're gonna talk in teams. We're gonna build things in teams. But a card in general is a user interface. It's a user interface container for if you want to create like a short or related pieces of information, you want to put it together. So it's a way for me to graphically build that story, and then I can have multiple properties attached to it. Depends what kind of card it is. I can have it very interactive. I can click on things. I can make things to trigger. But it's a way for me, rather than just sending text, long, boring, or short, boring text, I can create this user interface that will allow me to do something, whether I'm connecting it as a bot, a connector, an app, whatever that is. It's a nice way for me to present that information in a nicer way to the end user. So we do have multiple types of cards. We're going to go through them pretty quickly. And we're going to focus on the adaptive cards at the end of the day. So think of a card as a response to a user question, or for example, settings. For example, if you pose a question like how many hugs can I have to, and then the bot will answer back with some answers. It could be some graphical. We have, for example, what you see on the screen, couple of examples. One is a hero card. If you are in SharePoint and then you've seen the hero web part in SharePoint, something similar. Used, for example, for best for articles, some short descriptions, some actions on it. You can click on it and it goes into what the actual article is all about. You can have a thumbnail that is short and sweet, where it does not have to take a lot of real estate, and then you can add something to it. There are some cards that are sign-in required. If you are going into a different system, integrating, let's say an SAP or an Oracle system within your team, or any other placeholder, that will require a sign-in to get into the other system if required. We do have, for example, a carousel or a digest. A carousel, you just scroll left and right, has a little bit more real estate, and then the digest is for example, digest news. So one starts on top of each other. And connector cards, if you want to go and connect to a different framework. Adaptive cards on the right-hand side, we are going to skip the description of that because we're going to talk about it quite a bit after. So adaptive cards. Early 2019, this is when Microsoft launched adaptive cards in everyone. We loved adaptive cards, the way it interacts. It was very rich schema with the way we lay out content, the way it's easy, how easy it is to create it. And everyone started interacting with it. And quickly, we wanted more. We wanted more in terms of not only, so initially it was a card that was pushed, let's say, into a Teams channel that displays information. But we wanted more. What if we want to interact with the card? What if we want to send back something to the card that will wait for a response from me and it will do something? So quickly, Microsoft started developing more into adaptive cards, and we have some now input that can gather from the users, a way for us to make it really, really interactive. And that changed the ball game a bit, because the way we do it with Flow in general and Power Automate, we can integrate anything with Teams through adaptive cards. We can go and connect different systems through Teams, and it will solve quite a bit of problems for us. So we can have an interactive visualizers. We can have a few things that we can look at. I can go and connect to Dynamics, for example, and I don't need to have a license deployed to everyone. and I can go and get information from Dynamics and then push information to Dynamics as well. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to go through that. We're going to go through the multiple scenarios, and we're going to look at the schema explorer of how you can build an adaptive card. We're going to look at some code previewer as well. And like I said, we're not going to, I used to be a developer, so I don't develop. I haven't developed in a long time, other than PowerShell script, which most developers don't consider that a development platform. So for me, when I go and create an adaptive card and have that platform without really developing anything, it's really great for me to go and show the capability of it. So we're going to look at 3 different scenarios, like I said. The first one is post information. So with that, we're going to look at create a one demo and then go through how we do it. The second one is integration, where we can have an interactive adaptive card when you can post something, and adaptive cards will need to respond. Will need to wait for a response from the end user before it continues on. And we're going to look at the advanced embedded adaptive card designer as well. So let's take scenario 1. A lot of common scenarios I have, if I want to take information from a specific SharePoint list that I don't have access to it, or someone does not have access to it, I want to take that information and post it into Teams or post it somewhere. But I don't have access to that SharePoint list. The only way for me to get access to that list is by the owner of that SharePoint site will give me access to it as a read-only probably, so I can go explore it, and that will give me access to everything in that SharePoint list and then the SharePoint site, which probably they don't want to do that for whatever reason. But what if I want to take that information, I want to publish it on a daily basis, or as they come, or as things change, so I am aware of what's happening in a specific project. So I can do that with adaptive cards. So let's go into that demo and see what we can do. Let's put this one here. So I have a SharePoint site here, and that SharePoint site basically it has a list that's called PCL. So inside that PCL list, it's basically it's a project, it's a construction project. If I go into it, and it has a lot of items here, it has an ID, the impact, the cost estimate, the description, who's the contractor. So a specific list, I want to take that list and I want to publish it, or whatever, not the entire list, but specific items based on maybe item added, or if there are anything that has changed. I want to take that and I want to send it to a specific Teams channel. So how do I do this? Definitely, we're going to do that with an adaptive card because we want to make it a little bit more nicer looking. I just don't want to go and send something that has no images or no UI. So the first thing I want to do is I would go, something that you want to remember is this URL, adaptivecards.io. So this is where you go and look at all the information about adaptive cards. Quick overview and introduction about it. There's some documentation if you want to look at. There's the schema explorer, which typically myself as non-developer, I definitely don't go there much. But the designer, this is where I can go and I can look at how I can build an adaptive card. So the designer here at the very last in the top menu is what you're looking for, is to go and build it on the fly. So if I look at my actual list that I want to pull some information from the list, so I do have a title, and like I said, a title, impact, cost, and description. Let's pull those 4 items into into a Microsoft Teams channel. Once you go into the designer under the adaptivecards.io/designer, this is where your starting point is. A few things you want to know or get yourself familiar with it is when you build an adaptive card, you're not really building it only for Teams. You have multiple host app. So a bot framework, you get the Microsoft Teams Dark and Light, Cortana, Windows Timeline, a lot of different host apps that you can publish it to. So I can build the adaptive card in one place and publish it into multiple places. So off the bat here, I have, when I go into Designer, it will automatically kind of create a sample card for me. So this is the card on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side, I have the card with some information in it, and on the far right, I have the card structure. So every time I click on one of the structure here, so I have, for example, the entire adaptive cards, it's going to highlight the entire thing here on the left-hand side. Then I have a text block, which is the actual title of it, for example. I have a column set, which has the picture of this person and the title. Another column, another image, the image, a column set, a text block. I have a fact set. We talk about fact set. So every time I click on it, it will show me exactly which one on the left-hand side. It will also show me the properties on the very far right of it. So these element properties will describe to me what is it. It will describe to me, for example, if I look at the text block, what is the text inside it, and things like this. So let's go and start looking into how I can build an adaptive card that will pull information from SharePoint and it will post it into Microsoft Teams. So for this example, I don't want this whole text block with this information about a user. I really don't care about it. I'm just going to highlight the entire section and click on remove. I'm going to click, for example, here on this adaptive card schema and change the text, for example, and call it update from SharePoint. And then this is the description here. So you've remembered that the text is description. We have a description in SharePoint, and we're going to keep it as description here. And then we're going to change that. All of this information, when I go into Flow, I'm going to change it to be a little bit more dynamic, to use a Power Automate and to put that values in automatically for me. Then I have this fact set. A fact set is a list of multiple items that can be grouped together, and then you can have like a title for it and a value as well at the same time. So for example, if you remember what the actual SharePoint site was, so I've already created a description here. So I'm going to pull the title, impact, and cost estimate. So let's build that fact set here. So one is going to be title, and then I'm going to call this one. I'm just going to put a placeholder, and this placeholder will be like the actual value of the title that's going to come from SharePoint. So I'm going to call it SP title for now. I'm just going to add another fact set, and then we said what is it going to be? The impact, and impact. And I am going to say SP impact just as a placeholder for me to know exactly what to look for. And then I'm going to add another one, and this is the cost estimate. I'm going to call it here, and I'm going to say SP cost for now. So I can add or remove as many as I want. I can keep adding or remove them. It doesn't matter. And since this is only a card that I'm going to display into a team channel, I'm not going to pull information from the card. I'm not waiting for the card to receive any information. So those buttons, I'm just going to remove. I don't need them for now. But I'm going to add an action here, and then I'm going to say action open URL. And this one is when the actual Flow sends the card into Teams channel, I want the ability to not only look at the descriptions that's coming from SharePoint. I want also to have an open icon that will allow me to go and basically pull item in SharePoint as well. So when I click on it here, I have the title. So let's say we call it Open SharePoint item. Then the icon URL, I can have an icon there. So I can have an actual icon that show up like an emoji icon, but it has to be a URL. So typically what you do here, you just store it somewhere in a SharePoint site that everyone can have, and then you wrap URL because I cannot upload an actual image as an icon to an adaptive card. So I'm just going to go and Google icon image. Or open. Let's see here. Open. Here we go. This is the one I use all the time. So I'm just going to click on it. I'm just going to copy that URL. Make sure that you use, you're allowed to use it. So I'm just going to copy image link here. Right click and copy image link and just go back to this. I'm just going to paste it here. The minute I paste it, it's going to actually add the actual icon on the left inside that button. So I'm good with that. The second one is, this is the URL of the item in SharePoint, but for now, I don't know what it is. I'm just building the actual card. But because it is required, I'm just gonna fill it in. And then it's a good visualization for me when I am in Flow to know exactly what it is. So I'm just gonna go and put in Microsoft's URL for now. So right now, this is what the actual card look like. As you know, as you probably noticed, if I just make this one the payload editor, this is all JSON. This is the actual code. This is what it's talking about, that we're going to look at the code. We're not going to develop any code. But basically, every time whenever I add, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Your audio is breaking up a little bit. Can you try just turning off your video feed?
Sure.
And then continuing from there? Thank you, sir.
No problem. What about that?
That'll improve.
Is it better?
Sounds better, yeah. Thank you.
Okay,
yeah, should improve.
Okay, so I was talking about the payload editor on the bottom right, on the bottom of the screen. This is your JSON code that whatever you don't really need to do anything here. Unless you're a developer, you love to do in JSON, you can go and edit that code yourself. But whatever you add in the actual card above, it is updating this. For example, when I added the title, here we go, this is the title here, and then the SP title below it. And then after that, I have the impact and the SP impact. All of that is driven based on what I have built up there in the actual adaptive card. A couple of things you want to look at is, if I am going into a Microsoft team, there is a target version here on the top left. The target version, it changes based on what the host app it is. So the minute I select Microsoft Team, that target version is changed right away to 1.2. So this is the target, this is the version of the adaptive cards that will work with Teams. If I change that version into 1.4, I am going to get a big message here that this version or 1.3 is not supported, because my host app, I have to go. So this is the only thing that you have to look at is the target version. Make sure if you're doing Teams is 1.2. If you're doing other host apps, you can change it to 1.3, 1.4. So when that is completed, now it builds automatically the code for me. A couple of things here. I can actually click on the copy card payload on the inside here. So I click on that, it will copy it from me. I can go all my cursor inside card payload editor, Control A, Control C, same time. So now I have copied that. I'm going to go and actually paste it in my flow. Yes, so there's a question that can a adaptive card be interactive? Say once a user selects an item from a drop-down list, they get a different set of options. Yes, you can. You have to do some very creative JSON, but yes, you can. I have a demo similar to what you're asking for. That you have a selection of checkboxes, but it does not basically change on the fly based on selections, but definitely you can do that as well. Yes, you can. So let's go into Flow. I'm just gonna go into my Flow here. Make sure that when you are in Flow, you are logged into the same environment that you are in SharePoint and Teams. And let's look at where we're gonna publish it to. So this PCO is in the sales and marketing, and let's go and publish it to this US sales that's pretty empty general channel. So from here, I'm just going to go and click on my flows, and it will show me all the flows I have. And I'm going to go and create a new flow. And I'm going to code here and then say instant cloud flow. And I'm going to select from SharePoint. So I'm going to look at the trigger is what the trigger is. I'm just going to skip for now because it's easier for me to go and select the trigger from here. So first one is going to be from SharePoint, and go and get item. So for a selected item here, I'm going to go and look at the actual SharePoint site. I just doing a couple of things here. So I'm going to go and select what I'm going to look at. Which one I'm going to actually check is the actual sales and marketing here. And from the sales and marketing, I am going to go and select the actual PCO. So this is the actual list name that is going to be the trigger. And from here, and I'm going to go, so now I'm connected. So this is the trigger, is from SharePoint site, and that from that SharePoint site is going to be the list name. So that PCO list is going to be the trigger for me that will initiate that flow. So next, I'm just going to go grab. So I'm not going to create a new item. I'm just going to go and actually manually initiate that flow from a selected item. So I'm going to go into SharePoint again, and from SharePoint, I am going to go and get an item and get the item that actually was is going to initiate that workflow. I'm going to go and select the same SharePoint site, which is sales and marketing, and I'm going to go and select the PCO, and the ID is going to be dynamic. So basically, it's going to bring back the ID of the item that's initiating this workflow. So when I get that actual ID, it brings back all the information about that actual item. And then the last one is what I want to do with it. I want to take the actual details of the item and post it into Teams through an adaptive card. So I'm going to click Teams as the actual connector. And the action is, easiest way is go and look for adaptive cards. So I'm just going to look for adaptive cards here. And I'm going to say, post your own adaptive cards as a flow to a channel. So we're going to post that adaptive cards to a channel. Next demo will be for wait for a response. I will talk about it for a bit. So we're going to post this adaptive card to the flow and to a channel. And then now it's going to ask me which team you want to ask, or you want to select, or you want to send it to. And we said the US sales. That's what we picked. And then the general. And inside the message, this is where I can paste the code that I copied from the adaptive cards payload. So I'm just going to paste it here. This is exactly what you have seen. Outlook. You have seen here. So this is the copy of it, and you see all this code at the bottom. This is the actual image URL. This is no code. This is the actual image URL for the icon. So a couple of things I want to do is, as you remember that I have placed a few things. I have the description. I have the title. A bit bigger so everyone can see. So I have the description, the title. I have the impact and the cost estimate. So what I want to do is I want to bring it back dynamically these column values from SharePoint. So when I click on anything inside that message, is going to bring all the actual fields from SharePoint. So now I can highlight that description and click on the description from the dynamic content in Automate, and then it will replace that with the description. Same thing, I did SP title as a placeholder. I'm just going to highlight that and replace it with title. The impact also, I'm just going to delete that and go into the impact value. And then the cost estimate, the same thing. I can go and replace that with cost. And I can do this. However, there's a couple of things. One thing I want to do in the cost estimate, even though if I go back into here into my SharePoint list, it is a currency, but when Flow posts it, it will post it as only as a number. So I can be a little bit more creative here. I can use some Excel skills I have. I can click on the expression here, and I can go and say format number. And inside that format number, what I want to do, I want to format that cost estimate. I can go back to the dynamic here. I can pick the cost and add it for me inside. Oh, come on. Sorry. Let's go back again here. I was trying to get that explanation out of it. Format number. I can do this, and then go dynamic. And where's the cost estimate? There's a cost estimate. Then inside it here, so I can do that. The cost estimate is going to be, I want to format it. It have to be inside a single quotes, and then go like the $sign, and it's going to have this format, a number, and 3 number after it, and 00, and then I can click on OK. Then I can replace that with a formatted number. That way, it's easier for me to read. And the last thing I want to do here, remember that we wanted to open the item in SharePoint. So this is the URL of the open icon URL. So instead of doing that, instead of having it like a dynamic Microsoft.com, I'm just going to come back here and then say find the URL, and then look up the item URL, and it will replace that for me. One thing I want you to be aware of, if you are doing this, so when I've copied the code from here, the code actually defines the schema at the bottom and the version number. Like I said, it defines the version number from the top. Teams does not like it that way. Teams wants to see the schema and the version number at the very first thing when it starts reading that code. So there's a small bug here, and hopefully that will be fixed soon, that you're going to have to cut this. So remove it from here and put it at the very beginning. If you don't do that, the flow will run, but you're going to get an error that something happened. It's not understanding what you're talking about, because it's expecting what the schema is going to be all about and what is the actual version of it. So make sure that either you do a copy and paste or cut and paste before, or you just come back here and just move it around. It has to be, otherwise it will not work. So now I'm happy with, yeah.
Mike, we actually had a question from
Sure.
From one of our audience members about versioning.
Oh, thanks, Mike. Hey, that was me. And thanks, Mike. Oh, I guess I should say Mike squared. Question, yes, a follow-up questioning on the versioning that I posted in the chat. What are the potential, when toggling potentially between the versioning, whether a previous version, the current targeted, or even a preview version, like in the case of the bot framework, there's a preview of 1.4. What are the potential use cases of actually developing a card in a version that's not the targeted version?
One, if it's not the targeted version, it's not going to work on the host app.
Okay.
So the business case for it is if you are trying to develop the same card and you want to way into typically 1.2 is the most common version across multiple host apps. So I always use it unless there is a potential for version 1.3 and version 1.4 that will basically have a little bit more JSON code that the actual host app will understand it. So if I go, for example, into the bot framework, there will be some more code that it's more released code that the bot framework web chat will be able to actually execute based on version 1.3. I might have a little bit more access to objects, a way to reformat the actual card that the actual web chat would be able to understand it and not Teams. That's the only difference there.
All right, that makes sense. Thanks, Mike.
No problem. And now that I'm happy with that, I'm going to go and actually save this flow, and I'm going to say post card info to Teams. Just going to save it. All right, so now it's saved. I can get out of this. It's here. So now I can go into my sales and marketing, and then I can look at this, let's say this one, floating replacement. Click on automate, and it should be here. Here we go. Post card info to Teams now is available for me, and then I just click on it, and it's going to ask me, it's going to show me what I'm connected to. So I'm going to be connected to Teams. I'm going to say sign in. I haven't signed into this one yet, so it's going to take a little bit of time for Flow to sign me in. So it passed the permission of Microsoft Teams. I'm going to click on continue. I'm going to click on run Flow. So when that happens, let's go and look at the flow, refresh it. It succeeded. It took 4 seconds to finish. Then I come here, and here it is. This is my flow here. I can put the more graphical information here, but this is exactly what I'm looking for. Update from SharePoint. This is the actual description from SharePoint, the title, the cost, the impact is cost, and this is the cost estimate. And then I click on open in SharePoint. Open SharePoint item is going to actually take me exactly to that SharePoint item if I want to have that. So if I go into another one that has schedule, again, go back and close it should do the same thing. It should be faster this time. And run flow, all done. I can come back into this, and here we go. It did the same thing, and I can do open in SharePoint. So this is as easy as it is. I actually did not develop anything other than just create the actual card, copy the code, and then all I had to do is just replace those static values into those very dynamic values from SharePoint. And here we go. Now we are posting information from one place to another, and I'm not given access to Megan, although Megan, in my example, has access to everything. But I'm not giving Megan access to the actual list content, but I'm receiving all the information from that. So yes, we can actually change the actual image to appear whatever you want. We can definitely do that as well. So it does not have to show the actual image of the Power Automate. We can definitely change that. We can change this as well, but I did not bother to do that because I have another demo. I just want to respect everyone's time as well. So a couple of things I want to show you, or I want to share with you as well. So let's close this. I'm going to keep this one open because I'm going to come back to it. One of the things I always look at is the adaptive cards with Power Automate. There's a lot of examples on the docs.microsoft.com. Actually, I'm going to paste that link in the chat as well. This was my reference. This is how I learned about adaptive cards and how to create things. So it gives you a lot of info about the model flows of adaptive cards, how it works. You really don't need to know all the actual, even though it's really straightforward for some of the users that develop for, but you really don't really the actual code. It tells you exactly how it works. You can go with the overview of it. There are some information about different adaptive cards in Teams. It has, for example, it has this one here. What is it? The actual daily weather. So daily weather is one of my favorite one. It posts daily weather, and I have it actually in one of my channels. If I go into sales and marketing general, Ottawa 80 degrees today. So it's a daily thing. So I just did not do it myself. I just went into the site and I grabbed information. I grabbed that from it. So the link is there. Really go into it and check out different type of adaptive cards, specifically around Teams, how they interact with Teams, because the next demo is all about interaction between adaptive cards and the user. So just moving on to the second case, use case scenario. Just open for me here. So this is all good. What about if I want to have some integration forms? Like I said in the beginning, that I want to have some interaction between the forms. Not only I want to receive information into my Microsoft Teams. What if I want to do some interaction with it? So a second use case is a lead generation from Microsoft Teams. This is a very common scenario where if I want to go into CRM, into Dynamics 365, and I am not a Dynamics user. I probably don't know Dynamics much. It's going to cost quite a bit of time and money to learn or to teach someone about Dynamics on how to go and register a lead into our portal. It's either I can use the portal, I can train the actual users on it. It's going to cost me licensing cost. Also, I'm going to have to train them on how to use it. And if they don't use it all the time, they may not remember how it is. What if I can take that information and use it in adaptive cards with some interaction with it and post that information into Dynamics 365 as a lead generation? So let's take that as an example, because that would be really cool how we can interact with that. So the second use case scenario I have here is, let's go back here. I want to take some leads and post it into Teams. So I'm going to create, that's fine, not change much. So I'm going to create another flow. And this is my flows here. This is the actual postcard info. This is the post MSN weather into as an adaptive card that I've done before. So I'm going to go and create an instant cloud flow here. And I'm going to do a manual trigger because I don't want to go into the Dynamics right now and set up everything. It's going to take quite a bit of time. So I'm just going to kind of run it as simulate that process for you. So I'm going to manually trigger that flow instead of trigger it from Dynamics, because Dynamics or from Teams to go into Dynamics, it might take a little bit of time, and I just want to make sure that the demo works. Cool. Mike Dixon uses that one use the cards for that. That's pretty cool. So I'm going to manually trigger that. So what I'm going to do is, because I'm going to manually trigger it, I'm just going to take that information and post it into Teams. So I'm going to take that, click on that new operations, and the connector is Teams. And again, I'm going to be looking for adaptive cards. And this time, because it's interaction, because I am posting something into Teams and I'm waiting for a user to respond to it. So instead of just the one before we selected post your own adaptive cards as a flow bot to a channel. I'm going to say post an adaptive card to a team channel and wait for a response. So this one, when I select it, it's going to be sitting there in a team channel and waiting for a user to take action against it before it proceeds. So I'm just gonna again go and select the same team, and then I'm gonna select exactly the same. I'm gonna just post it to the general channel as well. Maybe sales list. Select sales list. And what is the message? The message is actually another adaptive card, but someone good at Microsoft posted this, so I'm just gonna copy the whole thing and paste it. Copy that. I'm gonna paste it here. But if I look at the code, I really don't understand what's happening. I don't really understand how it looks like. Yeah, maybe if I know code, it's gonna look okay to me. But what if I go back into my designer here? It works both ways. So it's a two-way street in the adaptive cars that IO/designer here. Not only I can build the cars, it's gonna build the actual code for me at the bottom. It's gonna go at the bottom, delete everything. I'm gonna paste that code that was given to me by someone who knows more code than I do. When I do that, it's going to show me the preview of the card here. So there's a potential customer name, first name, last name, all this. And then I can see how it looks like. Maybe I don't really like some of the fields. I can go back here and just say, instead of potential, just delete potential here. And then customer last name. Then we have the email and the phone number is all good. And this is the choices I have here. Maybe I want to add another choice and I call it, for example, compliance. This compliance. As I build it, it's building it for me as well here. And then now I'm happy with the design again because I don't want to go and code anything. I'm just looking at the actual building the card here. So I'm all happy with it. Make sure this is 1.2 here. And Control A, Control C. You can come back into this, delete this, and paste it. The couple of other fields in this posting and adaptive cards and waiting for a response. There's a couple of fields I want you to pay attention to. Is a message update. Here, basically, what's happening is when someone posts back or someone responds to this form, I want to replace that form with a message update. If I don't replace that form, I'll show you exactly what happens after. But let's say here, I can say submitted by this person. I'm going to say yes here. So should the card be updated or not? And basically what it does here, it will take the actual form that was posted, and once I submit it, it will replace. It's like a web form. When you submit a web form and you say thank you for your submission, will be with you shortly or contact with you shortly. This is similar. I'm updating the card with a new message. But because the update message here, it's really limited. It's like a text field only. I don't have a lot of room to kind of make it a little bit more prettier. So instead of that, I'm just going to create another step. I'm going to post a message here. So I'm going to post message. Should show up post. Come on. There we go. I'm going to post that message. I'm going to post the message to the same team. Again, US sales. And I think we selected East. Let's double check. Yes, it was East. Just don't want to post it to a different channel. And from here, I can say leads submitted by, and I can say here this, and then I can say lead details, for example. I can make this one as bolded, and I can say first name. I can see here. One thing I did not show you is this actual card or this code has some variables. Like the ID of the first name is called AC lead first name and last name. So I can take all this information because now they're available for me as dynamic content, and I can use them here. So AC lead first name. So I'll make this one as well, the bolded. Last name. Bold that one as well. And I can put the last name here. Email. I can put the actual email. I can do the interest as well. There is more to it. Let's do the actual phone. And it has the phone number. And then what are the interests here? What is the actual user interested in? And then this is the AC lead product interest. So if I go back, how did I know about this? If I go back into this one, you can see that all of them are here, the choices. They are all here. So now that I'm happy with it, I'm going to say, name it to lead generation in Teams. So let's save that. Make sure I have the schema on top and the version number is on top as well. When I'm happy with that, so because I'm just not going to go in Dynamics and take a little bit of time to do this, I'm just going to come and run this one from here. So because I have manually triggering this one, I'm just going to click on Run. It's going to go and sign me into Microsoft Teams. Click on Continue. I'm going to run the flow now. And done. So it shows me that the flow is running. If I go into the flow itself, so the first one is manually triggered, and you can see here, it's waiting. Nothing's going to happen. Nothing is going to happen into this workflow until I do something in Teams. So let's jump into Teams here and go to Sales East. And this is the lead notification here. So this is the actual card. So if I go and click on start filling the information, number here, and this is the actual information I am interested in, and it shows this is the actual who submitted that one. Now when I click on submit, it's going to replace that card. It's going to send the information and it's going to say, here we go, lead submitted by this person, and this is the actual interest in it. If I hook it back into Dynamics, then it will send that information into Dynamics. And now, as you can see, the actual flow is completed. What happens if I don't do these steps? If I don't go into these steps here, I don't say no here, and I don't fill out, this is optional. If I don't fill out the information, and let's disable this. Let's actually delete this. This step, if I don't do that, if I say, should the card be updated, what's going to happen is when I click on save and resend it again, let's go back into it and run it.
We've got a quick question in chat there.
Before it times out, I think it's 24 hours before the actual wait, and then after 24 hours, it will time out. So now I'm looking at it. It's waiting for a response. So look at this one. Your flow is running. It's waiting for this. I go back into my team. This is the new one here. So I'm gonna put John Smith, J. Now when I submit, it is going to actually submit the information, but because I opted not to replace the actual card, it will refresh. And someone else, so now, like you can see, it looks like something happened, but it's still there. Someone will come back and say, if someone else is in that channel, we'll see, hey, what's going on? This is not being submitted. I'll try to submit again. So if I go back into my flow, it's completed, actually. Finished the job. But definitely, you want to do that. This is really really crucial way to make sure that you can post a proper message after the submission. So we've talked about posting information. We've talked about some interaction and integration between different platforms using with adaptive cards and Power Automate. And the last one I want to show you here is the embedded AC card. So the way I do it today, or the way we have it today, is I go into adaptivecards.io. I kind of click on the actual different forms and different fields I want to show. It builds the code for me, and then after that I'm gonna go grab that JSON and post it. What if you can take that adaptive card editor and put it directly into the flow? It would save me a lot of time, rather than just going into two different browsers. Go into adaptive cards, build it, copy the JSON code, manipulate it or whatever, a bit in it, copy that, put it in a message channel. What if I can do better than that? This is common, but let's do something here. Yes, close that. One thing you want to know is if I want to embed this video into Flow and Power Automate, I have to enable something here. So I'm going to go into the gear icon. I'm going to go to View All Power Automate settings, and I'm going to enable the experimental feature. You should have it in your tenant. So you don't have to be an admin to enable that. So I'm going to enable the experimental feature, and I'm going to click on Save. And then if I go back into my flow and click on Edit, so I can go and create a new action, create a new step here, and I'm going to look at adaptive cards again. Let's do this. Look what I have here. I have a new icon here, a new button that I can do something in it. So I can click on Create Adaptive Cards, and it's opening the designer inside it. So again, I can also open the payload editor here. I can go bring over this code that I got, paste it here. There we go. It is inside Flow. I don't have to leave Flow. So I can do that. I can save the card now, and boom. And then I'm gonna have to go and exactly the same thing. Look for my channel, US Sales, post it into Sales West, and it is there. I don't have to go back and forth. I am inside it. But some people will say the real estate is not that big, which is fine, but I don't have to copy and paste. I do a lot of mistakes typing and a lot of mistakes in copying and pasting. So this is really, really, really cool. It is in preview mode, but it is part of Flow. It's awesome. I definitely, if you are using built-in adaptive cards, go and try it out. And with that, got a few minutes left. A couple of things I want you to keep in mind from a best practices perspective. One is keep the noise down, which means don't make it too busy. The reason we create cards or adaptive cards, just because we want to present information to the end user in a very simple and quick way, in a graphical interface, that we want to send them a message, and we want the actual message to be received well. We want them to read that message. So don't make a lot of noise in terms of build it as a very busy card. Keep it as simple as possible. Test it on mobile, even though it should actually readjust itself to mobile devices, especially on Teams mobile. But make sure you test it properly. You don't add anything that may be bigger than the screen. Make sure that the graphics are going to scale. The graphics will be able to the actual the pixels on the graphics or the quality of the graphic will work well on larger screen as well. And then one of the tips from an accessibility perspective, I work quite a bit with the government of Canada here, and it's pretty big on accessibility, is avoid including text and graphic because it will be very hard to read. And some resources, some references, Get Started Today, adaptivecards.io/explorer, the Power Automate actions. There's a lot of public templates also. There's a lot of sample code. Let's go jump back into it. Which one was it? This one here. So for example, the lead collection here is this, as I said, I did not do this code. So this is all the code I got from there. So they have a few examples that will get you started into the Power Automate adaptive cards. A lot of public templates, a lot of sample codes. Get with it. It's really cool what you can and cannot do. It's really a lot of very useful resources. So this is how I started learning. It wasn't hard at all. Like I think I learned it in a matter of half a day. I was able to learn it. The last best practice on the text on the graphic. Do you mean like alt text? No. What I mean by that, by the actual avoid text on graphic. Avoid putting some text, like actual writing text on graphics, just from an accessibility perspective, because tools cannot really read the text on graphics. So if you want to have some text, make sure the alt text, I don't know if it's readable in adaptive cards, but just if you want to have a text, just put it underneath the actual graphic itself. Can we send an Outlook message with an embed card from Power Automate? Where do you want to send the message to, Benoit? If you want to get off mute and explain that, you want to send it to Outlook, or from Outlook you want to send it somewhere else?
We need to get some information from our partners. So we need to pre-fill kind of a survey with personalized information, and then send it to them to have a confirmation. So I don't think that Teams would be a good way to do it now, but a personalized message to the partner would be a good solution.
Yeah, you can actually you can send Outlook messages with adaptive cards. It just basically it's all about, so a couple of things in my demo here. I have the adaptive cards itself, how they are formatted to work well. Outlook is one of them that is a hosted app. The second one is, how do I send this adaptive cards and what kind of information I want to send in the adaptive cards, and that is I'm using Flow for that. So with Flow, I can definitely send information. I can basically the message inside that, send a message inside the Flow action. I can paste that code, and definitely it should be able to go and send that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. So my contact information on the screen as well. If you want to reach out, send me any question. I do have sample codes. I can send you sample codes as well. But so sample codes are available on the docs.microsoft.com. I will be very happy to answer any question. And with that, I think it's raffle time. Raffle time. I have a couple of questions.
All right.
Questions. Are we ready?
So before Mike, you kick off the raffle, we could just set a few ground rules here. So we have 2 Amazon gift cards that we're giving away today. And in order to make sure that we're able to do this fairly, you have to type the right response into the chat window. That'll let us see who answers correctly first. So there's 2 gift cards, 1 winner per gift card per question. So with that being said, everyone might want to switch over into your chat view, and Mike's going to reveal the first question.
Question number 1. What is the target version for adaptive cards that is required for Teams? So it can work properly.
So we've got a few answers coming in. Mike, do any of these look right to you?
Yeah, the version is 1.2.
All right, so I think Ananta won. So congrats, Ananta. It's the first response.
Congratulations. And the second one is, does it cost me anything to create and deploy adaptive cards? Yes or no answer.
Mike, do we see the right answer on the board?
That is a right answer, and it is no. It is free. It doesn't cost you anything. So yes, the correct answer is no.
Excellent. So it looks like Chrissy has won the second gift card. So thanks everyone for for playing in the raffle. So Mike, back over to you.
Again, thank you. It was really great to be virtually with the Boston user group again. Good to see some familiar faces and friends as well. It's been a while. Thank you for the opportunity, Dimitri, and the team for me to present. Enjoyed having a session. And thanks again. My contact info is up there. If you want to have any question, I would be happy to answer.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. No, this was great.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
No problem. And there was a question about the presentation. I can definitely share it with you, Dimitri, and you can share it with the rest of the user group.
Excellent, thank you. Yeah, and to everyone else on the call, when we do receive presentations, we like to update the event on our website and post a link of the attachment directly there. So if you go to any of our previous sessions, I think we've done a fairly decent job with keeping up to date. If there's any that you ever see that you don't see the presentation, you can reach out to us and we'll reach out to the presenters to get that for you. So back over to Mike Dixon for some closing slides before we go into a little bit of a happy hour. So Mike, over to you.
Thank you, Dimitri. And thank you, Mike, for that awesome presentation. I am going to be turning on experimental options on every flow and every tenant that I use now. Thanks to this presentation. I had no idea that that was there. That's awesome. Very excited. So moving forward, though, we'd like to take this time to see to kind of open it up to you guys and see if anybody has any problems or tips that they've run into with Office 365 over the past month or so. Anybody got any head scratchers?
I have a question, if I may.
Sure.
One of my clients has gotten his email address hacked in a sense that somebody got his password sending out malicious emails over his name, so we changed his password. Mm-hmm. Is there, and then it went to one recipient who said, oh, we blocked it. We were using something called Proofpoint. Mm-hmm. Has anybody had any experience with? Is that something we should consider?
Yeah, Proofpoint's great. It's one of many different products that do spam protection and will check for security options within that system. Proofpoint, Ironport, and Blue Coat, I think, are those the big ones that I can think of off the top of my head.
Okay.
I'm sure there's also rattle off a few more.
Yeah, I mean, there's also the first-party Microsoft options for Microsoft Defender 365 Plans 1 and Plan 2 that you can add on and keep everything native within your same stack.
Okay, so that's in addition to Windows Defender on the computer. That's separate.
Yeah, it's a completely different product. It used to be called ATP Plans 1 and Plan 2. and Microsoft rebranded it to be Defender for Office 365 about 6 months back.
And Dimitri, what's the current name? Is it just ATP, or didn't they rebrand one of the email protection schemas as well?
Yeah, that's the one I was referring to. So it's Microsoft
Okay.
365 Defender for Microsoft Defender for Office 365, I believe, is the latest.
Okay. Look it up quick, Arthur. They're going to change the name next month.
Oh, okay. They're keeping a secret. Okay.
But Arthur, the other part too is you mentioned their password got stolen, and one of the easiest things that you can do is to roll out multi-factor authentication. It comes as part of your Office 365 license, and that right there will stop a significant amount of people, even if they do steal someone's password.
Yeah, that stops it cold.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know I don't know what he did, but far be it from me.
Well, here's the great thing: is it wouldn't matter what he did. He could do some really silly things like publishing his password all over the place. If he had MFA enabled, it wouldn't matter.
Okay.
So it's a really, really good recommended system. So anybody else? Any other questions? Really? All of Office 365 was working perfectly for everybody? That's astonishing. I want to come work with some of you guys then.
Now, just an update since the last time, Microsoft had somehow turned off the autocomplete feature in Outlook when we had last met, and I was asking how to get it back. And fortunately, somehow they've turned it back on again. People were all upset when they'd start typing new messages in Outlook and names would not appear anymore. I don't know if anybody has any more information what happened, but it's back in service.
Yeah, thanks for that, Arthur. I have not heard about that, but that might explain a few things I've been seeing.
Okay. I haven't experienced that in any of the tenants that I've been working in, so I haven't heard anything about it.
People were yelling at me as to why I turned that off.
Well, yeah, it's clearly your fault.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, I have influence in the great corporation.
Yeah, so we have a few questions here in chat. So Ananta's asking, any ideas how to auto-delete Teams recordings after a certain time frame across the tenant? Recordings go to SharePoint, OneDrive by default in the future. Yeah, Ananta, so great question. I think the best way to address that would be to leverage the retention labels and have either configure a default label for that folder or use one of the auto-apply policies to match to the recordings folder. And in that case, you could specify things in terms of how long recordings must be kept for or the maximum amount of time they can be kept for.
Yeah. So they still have to opt in to turn that on right now, don't they? Because I believe right now the recordings are still going into stream. Actually, I know for a fact that right now the recordings are still going to stream.
It depends on your tenant. In my tenant, they're all going into OneDrive and SharePoint.
Okay. So yeah, that's something to look for. But yeah, once if you are at a point where they can do that, this is actually one of the things that this change is going to enable is just the application of standard retention policies and also just flows, because I've been looking into it for years, and flow triggers and actions within Stream are basically non-existent.
Yeah, so Mike's absolutely right. So part of the reasons that that Microsoft, has decided to move away from Stream was because there was a ton of enterprise content management features like your retention labels, your compliance, your granular permissions that were not available in Stream. And instead of building up all of that additional infrastructure, they figured it might be easier to let SharePoint/OneDrive be that foundation and then convert their Stream to be more of an app that could live on top of those platforms. So Ananta's asking, could we use retention labels per file type? So when you're saying file type, if you're referring to like MP4, the answer is that you could if you have the E5 features to do the auto labeling, in which case you could do a regular expression search to match the file name to equal .mp4. But my recommendation would be more to target the folder names that are called recordings. It's pretty standardized, and that might be just a slightly easier way of doing it. Yeah. If you want to reach out to me offline, I can give you a brief walkthrough of what that looks like. And then just moving on to the next question, we have a question from Catherine, whether we cover Power BI in this user group. The answer is sorta. It's technically part of the Office 365 suite, but it's kind of its own SKU. And usually more data-focused people use Power BI. So we've definitely touched on the topic previously, but I believe there is another Power BI user group that Mike will show us in a few slides from now. And to Chrissy's point in the chat, there's also another Power BI women meetup that you might be interested in as well.
And if there's enough interest, we would be happy to do a Power BI based session for this group as well. So if that's something that you guys want, let us know. We'd be happy to do it. We definitely have we have several people that we could call upon for doing some Power BI presentations. All right. So let's get into some community stuff. Can everybody still see my screen? Awesome. Thank you. Yes. Upcoming community stuff. There is coming up on June 23rd, a Viva Ask Me Anything, or Ask Microsoft Anything, I guess they're branding it as. So anybody interested in any of the new Viva modules, which are learning, connections, topics, and insights, I would highly recommend hopping on here, and it's a great opportunity to pick the brains of those that are actually, well, I don't know if they're going to have any product team members on there or not, but they usually do on calls like that. So it's a great opportunity. And then next, somebody was asking in the slide, there is going to be, we don't typically cover Windows here, but there's been so many rumors around Windows 11, Sun Valley, all of that stuff. Your questions should be answered next week. So there's going to be a big event for Windows Next that is coming up next week. Please go join that. I'm looking forward to the rumors being put to rest and getting some answers. God, I hope we get solid answers, but that might be asking for too much. Other events that we have coming up, SharePoint Fest is next week, right? 26th, is that next week?
In a month from now.
July.
Oh, right, that's July. Okay, so yeah, plenty of time. Plenty of time to go register for SharePoint Fest, and also lots more time for the North American Collaboration Summit, which is going to be on August 9th through 11th. And are we missing anything? Are there any other events that people know about?
Hey, Mike, don't forget, Inspire's next month too.
Oh, yes, Inspire. You're right. I don't know how I forgot to put that on here, but yes, Inspire is also next month. Thank you, Chrissy.
No worries. And for the D365 that crossovers to Power Platform, there's a call for speakers for the Dynamicon that I believe will be in September, I think. But just Bing or Google Dynamicon, you can find it.
Okay.
Okay, I'll put it in the chat.
Fair enough. All right. Also, Microsoft Community Calls. So I didn't get a chance to update this slide, but a lot of the community calls are being put on pause or are on break for the next 2 months. Not all of these are, but a lot of them are. I know for a fact Power Apps is still going on next month. But a lot of these aren't. And also, when they come back, they're going to be shaking up the way that these calls are organized. So I don't have all of the information on that quite yet. But there is going to be kind of a consolidation of some of these and a more regular sort of schedule that's doing just a regular every Tuesday, every Thursday. So more to come on that in a couple of months. Okay, and there's that slide again for some reason. And then more reoccurring resources. We've got the Women IT Pros, the Power Addicts, and also the Power Hour. If you guys know of any other community events, either Microsoft or non-Microsoft sponsored events, but just that cover these sorts of materials, please let us know. Reach out to any of us, and we'll make sure that it makes it into the deck for next month. All right. We've also got the Rhode Island SharePoint user group. They meet on the first Tuesday of every month. And the Hartford Office 365 user group, which meets on the last Wednesday or Thursday of every month. And the Granite State SharePoint user group, which meets on the first Thursday of every month. And also here it is, the Boston Azure user group and the Power BI user group. All right. And a final thanks to, again, our platinum sponsor, Turn Digital. Thank you very much, guys, for helping us keep this show up and running. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to support in the future. And also to all of our past sponsors.